And today I bestow a new award onto Florida. And the newspaper outlets, not even just the news outlets in general, that overhype everything. The giant African land snail has been spotted in Florida, forcing quarantine in parts of county. What county? We love to take these animals and just be like, oh my God, everyone's going to die. I keep on seeing this, and this has popped up multiple times. And every single time it does, I'm a bit confused on many angles, at least when it comes to this land snail. You know, I can understand people freaking out about like a Nile crocodile being spotted. I can understand that. I can understand people freaking out about tegus. I can understand people freaking out about Nile monitors or Burmese pythons. It's understandable. We've had invasive species here in Florida for a long time. I mean, when the Spanish brought feral hogs here, it's been a problem since people have been here, basically. Or I should say colonialists, whatever you want to call them. It's been a problem for a very long time. Florida has a unique environment that allows animals that live in warm environments to live here as well. And also cooler environments, because it doesn't get quite as cold as it does at the equator. With that being said, snails are the ones that you're going to latch onto right now. Is it a slow news week? Giant African land snail consumes at least 500 different types of plants and can cause extensive damage to tropical and subtropical environments, Florida officials said. Parts of Broward County, Florida are under quarantine after a giant African land snail, described as one of the most damaging snails in the world, was detected this month, agricultural authorities said. Officials confirmed the detection of the snail in the Miramar area of Broward County on June 2nd, following a report to the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The quarantine area established Tuesday on Pembroke Road and South University Drive, blah, 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 blah. A map shows where they were. I've looked for invasive species in here. I have been through this area. So 2 little spots where these snails were. Under the quarantine, it's illegal to move the snails or plants, compost, soil, or building material through or from a quarantine area without a compliance agreement. The giant African land snail, which is illegal to import or have in the U.S. without a permit, consumes at least 500 different types of plants, according to the Agricultural Department. They can be devastating to Florida agriculture as they cause extensive damage to tropical and subtropical plants, the agency said. The creature also posed serious health risk to humans by carrying parasite rat lungwort, or meningitis in humans, an agricultural department said. Now a treatment process is underway to eradicate the pest using based molluscicide or snail bait. A pesticide used to control snails and slugs, works to disrupt mucus production and in turn makes them susceptible to dehydration. Just pour some salt on them. The salt and snails and slugs have eaten, often seeking hiding places, becoming inactive and begin to die within days, it says. The treatment areas include properties within 200 yards of snail detection. Properties in those areas will need 26 treatments and 19 months of negative surveys for the presence of snails. The survey will include one performed by a detector dog. And these procedures are required to safeguard Florida agriculture industries and natural resources, along with ensuring that there are no international trade implications enforced due to the establishment of the detrimental pests, the Agricultural Department said. The giant African land snail has already been eradicated from Florida twice, first detected in 1969. Nice. It was eradicated in 1975. The snails were eradicated again in 2021 after a 2011 detection in Miami-Dade County. So, long story short, in my humble opinion, the reason that this is such a big deal is because that area is full of agriculture. And when I say agriculture, I mean like anywhere fruits, vegetables. I mean, they grow stuff all year long there. There's sugarcane in the area. Not that far south. They're kind of a little bit more inland, but there's sugarcane near there. And there are also all sorts of like tropical plants that are grown and sent out. Like that's where you find like those giant royal palm trees being grown. You drive down that area near Homestead and what is it called? The Redlands and all that area down there. I mean, I go down there a decent amount to go herping. And there are a ton of non-native species out there. And I mean, when I say that there are a ton of non-native species, I mean, like, that's one of the highest density populations of, like, especially, like, lizards and stuff, like, you know, agamas and curly tails and all sorts of stuff that you're like, oh, that's not from Florida. Iguanas, all sorts of stuff live down there. And this is going to be a bigger issue because they eat plants. And I mean, iguanas eat plants too, but these guys just constantly eat, and they can reproduce really quickly. And you can't eat them. And the reason you can't eat them is because they have the rat lungworm, which is not a good thing for people to get. I mean, these are cool snails. They're huge. But like it would destroy a lot of the agriculture down there. And that's why people care as much. Let's see. Rat lungworm snail. There we go. Also known as neuro or rat lungworm. I can't read that shit. Is a disease that affects the brain and spinal cord. It is caused by parasitic nematode called blah 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 blah. The adult form of a blah 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 is only found in rodents. However, infected rodents can pass larvae of the worm in their feces. Snails, slugs, and certain other animals, including freshwater shrimp, land crabs, and frogs, can become infected by ingesting this larva. These are considered intermediate hosts. Humans can be affected if they eat, intentionally or otherwise, a raw, uncooked, infected intermediate host, thereby ingesting the parasite. And you eventually die. It's as simple as that. You just eventually die from this thing. And it's not a good thing. Symptoms can cause a rare meningitis. The clinical presentation can vary. Symptoms can start with non-specific symptoms and evolve to more specific symptoms over the next following weeks. People may experience nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain a few hours to a few days after ingestion. Symptoms can then progress to headache and other neurologic symptoms. Non-specific symptoms include fever, light sensitivity, muscle pain, fatigue, and insomnia. More specific symptoms may include constant headache, neck stiffness and pain, tingling or burning of the skin, double vision, bowel or bladder difficulties, and seizures. Although it varies from individual to individual, the symptoms usually last 2 to 8 weeks. Symptoms have also been reported to last longer over periods of time, and you can die from this. There was a guy who recently ate a slug on a dare, and it killed him. He went to like a coma, and then he just basically wasted away. It was a very terrible thing. It happened very recently. But like, that's why you don't eat. That's why snails aren't really as big of a thing outside of France. I mean, I don't know if that's more of a stereotype, but the point is that they are definitely out there, and you just don't eat random things you find, because something as simple as a slug can literally kill you. Not even the slug itself, but the parasites that they hold. And I mean, these are big snails. I mean, if people could eat these, it wouldn't be an issue. They'd be eradicated in a minute because people would go and eat them. But it's not how this works. You can't really do that. So it's not like they pose necessarily a risk to people. Like, you're not going to pick this snail up and die. It's just going to attack the money. And how many times do I have to say over and over again, this happens in all sorts of situations, when it comes to hunting, when it comes to fishing, when it comes to any like conservation. If the animal can make you money, it will never go extinct. If the animal can make you money, it will never. But if you're losing money because of it, it will be wiped out instantly, or at least as quickly as possible. And then it's going to be a huge deal. Um, cane toads. What do cane toads do? Well, they were originally brought into places to take care of the beetles that like sugarcane. That's why you go down to the sugarcane fields in South Florida and they're everywhere. And you know what? There's not an eradication effort, really. The only time you hear about them is when you're like, don't let your dogs eat the cane toads. It's the only reason anybody cares, because they can poison a dog and then they go out of control. And then, you know, they eat other bugs besides the cane beetles, which they don't even really eat. And, you know, when it's right in your face, that's when people care. The Burmese pythons, people care about that because they see an alligator get eaten every once in a while. They're like, they're every single one's doing this. No, if that Burmese python that ate that alligator, like ate it and that it didn't die and it wasn't captured, it probably wouldn't eat for like 3 months. And it was one gator ever. Like, you know how many gators get hit by cars every day? Yeah, how many large gators I've seen on the side of the road that just get decimated by trucks? Like, an individual gator every once in a while is not that big of a deal. In fact, until they get above a certain size, the Burmese pythons, everything eats them too. Gators, there are so many gators that are above like 6 feet down there in the Everglades that all those baby Burmese pythons are getting eaten left and right. Not many of them make it to adulthood. And once they make it to a certain size, then they start eating bigger stuff. But like a Burmese python can't eat a fully grown raccoon, as an example, until it's a few years old and it's like a certain size. Raccoons are big. Possums are big. These animals are big. Alligators get bigger a lot quicker than snakes do. And they can eat bigger things a lot quicker because they're able to do the death roll and everything. A snake can only eat whatever it can get into its mouth and eat whole. And it takes a long time for them to get that big. So like these things are blown out of proportion drastically. And not saying they don't need to be taken care of, but it's not as big of a deal as you think. And then the news likes to grab these hypes and like forcing quarantine in parts of county, the quarantine of bringing things in and out so they don't spread, not quarantine of people. It's almost clickbait. Just like this video, when I make it, like it's going to be clickbait just because I'm going to put like a snail with like big fangs and everything just because it freaks people out. And like, that's the point. They want people to click on this stuff. And they want people to freak out. I've seen this all over the news. It's 2 areas they were found in. And they're being wiped out instantly. They're being poisoned. That's the news cycle for you. So no, Florida's not being taken over by giant land snails. The land snails don't pose a threat to people unless you're dumb and eat them. Don't eat land snails. Don't eat slugs. Don't eat snails unless you get them from a restaurant and they're cooked the way they should be, which they're very good. I had them at a place called Spinners, which is like a restaurant that spins in a circle in St. Pete, on St. Pete Beach. I got escargot, is it what it's called? It was very good. But I wouldn't go down and pick up a snail off the ground and cook it. No, you know why? Because they carry diseases. And that's why you just don't pick up random things off the ground and eat them. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, just trying to figure out this catchphrase. Apparently, stay wild is something that Coyote Peterson says. And I haven't watched him in such a long time, I completely forgot. I got to go see if that's actually the case. So I got to figure something else out. So in the meantime, stay wild. But I mean, the whole thing is going to be keeping it wild. So maybe I got to figure that out. But anyway, see you on the next one. Stay wild.